We are now joined by the new TV voice of the Miami Marlins, Kyle Sielaff. Welcome to the Bullpen Mafia.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be here. This is awesome. I'm excited for you guys, too. I've been following your stuff for a while, so it's really good. I told you I'm following Josh Hader, which is a huge issue for you guys. And I won't spoil who your guest is after me, but I'll tell you, I'm going to give you a reason to watch the interview before me and the one after me.
Fair enough. Before I get started here, Kyle, a huge congratulations to you.
Thank you.
It's old news now. Opening day is around the corner. We're in the middle of spring training as we speak. But for those listening who don't know, Kyle was promoted this offseason from being the radio voice of the Marlins to now being the primary play-by-play guy for the Fish. So a huge congrats to you. I can only imagine the emotions for you going to school in Miami, being with the team for over a decade now. Why don't you tell us what that meant to you and just maybe a little bit how your life has changed since you've accepted the role.
Yeah, well, the thing that's changed is before I came here, I was at Dadeland Mall in Macy's at the MAC store getting makeup, which I didn't foresee. Okay, the makeup portion was never was something I intended I had to do. So that's one big change. But thank you. It's exciting. It was a little unexpected for me. I had kind of cut my teeth since 2013. I graduated from UM in December of 2012, started 2 months later in 2013, and I had always loved radio. Growing up in New York, I would fall asleep. I grew up on farmland in New York, so I hate to say this, it's not like we're 60 years old, but growing up there in the middle of nowhere in the mountains and farmland, my only access to sports is on a clear night, not on a cloudy night back home. If I turn my radio on, I would get baseball games and I could listen up there. So I fell in love with baseball on the radio. If it wasn't for UM, no chance I'd be where I'm at doing UMTV, WVUM, which is still the voice of the Hurricanes for baseball and all that. But I had always thought I could have died in the Marlins radio booth, would have never said anything, but the opportunity presented itself, gave it a shot. It obviously came to fruition. So I am excited, a little nervous, but I'm excited in a good way. And the great thing, and I've told people this, I think the circumstances would be different if I was going to a new organization where I needed to meet 200 new people, front office staff, players, coaches, My producer now with FanDuel is John Solster, who I've traveled with for a decade. So I've got the relationships. It's helped. It's made me feel more comfortable. But at the same time, yes, a little nervous. I've never done it, but I'm excited about it.
Outside of the obvious difference of being on camera now, what is the biggest difference between being on radio now, being the face of a franchise when somebody turns on the TV?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I honestly, the biggest thing, and I've watched anything and everything since I was offered the opportunity. I've watched Cincinnati Reds games on a Thursday afternoon in the middle of July last year to watch their television broadcast. I've watched the Mets and the Yankees, the Dodgers, any team anywhere in between, no matter month, day, year over recent years. The biggest conclusion that I've come to is you just got to shut up. Because on radio, I have an obligation to say the 2-1 pitch is grounded out to short, such and such has it on the backhand, sets his feet, throws it. You have to.
Right.
On television, you're watching. I don't need to explain that to you. I've watched so much of out to short, one away,
Right.
But I did an interview with Christina De Nicola of Marlins.com. And honestly, it's funny, but it's not. Especially on television, I'm in your home every single night for 7 months out of the year. When Thanksgiving rolls around and somebody really annoying in the family drops by and they don't shut up?
Yeah, that's
I don't want to be that guy.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my only goal in year one is to not get a tweet afterwards that says, "Shut up, buddy, you're annoying me."
You grew up a Mets fan, and
I did.
This goes across baseball. A lot of baseball fans, their favorite broadcast crews outside of their own are the three dudes in the Mets press box. Are you taking some inspiration from them? Were they the crew when you were growing up as a Mets fan?
Yeah, it was Gary, Keith, and Ron on television because when we got DirecTV back home, I'm 34, okay? So I'm not that old, okay? But just circumstances are a little bit different when you live up there in the middle of nowhere. Once we got DirecTV, my regional network at the time was Fox Sports New York or whatever, and that was the Mets games. And then when I would go to bed, I would listen to Howie Rose on the radio. And I really do, and I love the team, but I fell in love more with the broadcasters because that's what resonated with me, and I loved watching them, but there was something about the art of calling baseball on the radio as I would fall asleep or not at night, that's what I fell in love with. So it meant a ton to me when Gary Cohen reached out to me when I got the job. I was like, I'll make this short, sweet, and to the point, but you don't know how much your text means to me because I look up to you. And he told me that, anything that I need, he's there for me. But I appreciate that. And there was probably a time where I was like, sheepish about I grew up a Mets fan, but no, it's what brought me and my dad together. Right. It's what brought me and my grandfather together, who passed in 2018, but I would call him after every great game growing up. That's how I fell in love with the sport. I think we all have stories like that.
Well, I'm a Mets fan now, so.
There you go. Okay. Understood. There you go. I get it. I'm following.
Toad's arc of fandom took a weird
in the
turn
Ace hat.
Ace hat, yeah. So Toad took a very weird route to become a Mets fan. But Kyle, you hit on something I think that's so important, right? You're joining an elite fraternity of broadcasters, right? If Major League Baseball becoming a big leaguer's exclusive, being a broadcaster at the big league level is extremely exclusive. I think one of the things we just touched on, you're going to have a rotating group of analysts. How does that sort of, how do you start building rapport with those guys? I think obviously you talk about the guys with the Mets. As I watch baseball, I love to listen to the storytelling, right? I think it's so cool. It's so unique in a sport where the action speaks for itself. You don't need to narrate every single point of the action. But again, the rapport with your analysts and your color guys is so important. How have you started to build that with some of the guys that you're going to be working with this year?
Well, again, here's the nice thing for me. I've worked with all of my partners except for Tommy Hutton. And Tommy, he's the star of the show, and he'll carry me. Yeah. I've worked with Rod Allen. I've worked with Gabby Sanchez. I've worked with Jeff Nelson. Again, there is a comfortability thing, an aspect to this for me coming into this. Obviously, I need to execute my portion and change things from a broadcast standpoint on the television side. But the one thing I have not had to do a lot of is go out to lunch and dinner with my new partners so they get to know me and a little bit about me and, the way I like to do things or, I guess the way I think about baseball. I've worked with those guys for years now, so it makes it a lot easier. And I'm so pumped to work with Tommy, who is obviously a legend down here in South Florida, and he means a lot to the Marlins fan base. And, I looked up to Tommy and Rich when I started as an intern in 2013. So, I looked at him the other day and I said, boy, this is how it ultimately ends for you here in broadcasting. I used to look up to you. Now you're working with me. So I'm so sorry about that. So it's really going south for it. Bet you didn't think this was going to be the case, did you, Tommy? But I'm so pumped to work with him because he's somebody I look up to. I look up to all the guys I work with. They all played in the big leagues, man. That's amazing. And I know you played professionally and it's a place that I was never going to get to, but to know that they got there. And the really cool thing is Gabby has the unique perspective of obviously, when he was a minor league player, he caught a little bit, played third, and obviously ended up in the big leagues at first base. So you've got the position player standpoint. Rod Allen played the outfield, and Jeff Nelson was a 4-time World Series champion with the New York Yankees.
No big deal, yeah.
Not a big deal. That's awesome. That's a different perspective from different analysts. And obviously, Tommy was a great player years ago in the big league. So different perspectives. I know those guys. I appreciate all those guys, and just super pumped to work with them again.
It's so cool. The Marlins do have a very unique broadcasting style, but again, the differing perspectives is so cool. I think as a fan to be able to watch that. Yeah. Kyle, we always ask big leaguers this question, and we're going to tailor it a little bit to you. Okay. We always ask them their call-up story, but for you, calling so many games, being around baseball for as long as you have been at the major league level, do you ever have moments where you wow, pinch me, I really get to do this on a day in, day out basis?
100%. Like I said, Gary Cohen is somebody I look up to. Every time he stops me in the hallway to ask me something about the team, and a guy that values my opinion, when it wasn't that long ago, I was watching him and that's the greatest job in the world. Those are always pinch me moments. Every night that you put a headset on and you hear your show open billboard and it says, here's Kyle Sielaff and whoever he's working with, they're obviously a little different on TV, but I don't take it for granted, and I never will, because it is a dream job. I'm living a charmed life. And you know what? Honestly, I have the humility to know that anybody that gets into this business, you get hired to get fired. That's the way it goes in broadcasting. And I hope I can do this forever. But I say that because I genuinely never show up the ballpark and just phone it in, because I'm there are millions of people. Probably not an exaggeration, because every single fan would love a shot to get up in the booth and do that. There are so many people that would die for this opportunity once, so I don't take it for granted, and I'm just super appreciative.
Any specific moments where it's that, oh man?
Okay, I think back to 2015. It was July. I called my first ever game on the radio, Marlins and the Reds. I don't remember the outcome. I think back, I've seen a couple of no-hitters, but for myself personally, when I took over full-time in radio a couple of years ago, Luis Ariza's first ever cycle was cool. That was like a month into me doing it. I'm like, oh God, how do you nail that? Because that one's forever going to like live in franchise history. Xavier Edwards did it last year.
Crazy how that works, right? That is peak baseball. It doesn't happen for 30 years, happens twice in 2 years.
The unintentional T-shirts that turned into the bad boy call that I had when we were in Colorado. Story behind that 2 years ago. The Miami Heat and the Florida Panthers were both in the Panthers were for sure in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I think the Heat, were they in the Finals 2 years ago too?
Simultaneously.
Okay, it was like 10:30 at night in Colorado, and the Marlins were up big. And I'm thinking to myself, who the hell is listening to this? And Soler hits the ball like 500 feet, and I call him a bad boy. I don't know why I said that, but I did it. And I get down to the clubhouse post game, and they're all laughing, and they're looking at me like, "What are you doing? Like, what's going on up there?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know. It's 11:30 back home. I'm just doing my thing, having fun." That was fun. The biggest thing that still sticks out to me, and I know it didn't end well, was that playoff game in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Just it hasn't been a reoccurrence for the Marlins that you just expect to get back there every year. And the way that building shook and the Marlins were playing the Phillies in the wild card, you'd be hard pressed, almost not like to be brought to tears in a good way, because it's so emotional, and the emotion, the anger and the passion that city had for that team, and like you're taking them on with a chance to really ruin their night. I know it didn't go that way. That makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up a little bit in the playoffs. That was insane.
I can only imagine. I think, you as a fan, you watch it, and obviously you're in the arena, right? It felt like it was a Coliseum style moment for you, obviously, for the team. I mean, it didn't go as planned, but again, another chance anew, right? It's spring again. But Kyle, I think the NL East has a unique, sort of stadium structure, right? I think obviously Citi Field, near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. What's your favorite stadium in the NL East to go and visit?
I could say something great about everyone. I honestly think we are in the best division in baseball. Yeah. Obviously, New York, the city itself, has a lot to offer. The ballpark, they've really turned the entertainment side around in recent years under Steve Cohen's ownership group. I might say Atlanta.
Wow.
Because when those guys are rolling and it's like a hot summer night and those fans are like a little agitated on the edge of their seat and they turn every light in that building off when the visiting team makes a pitching change and the chop comes out, it's like, oh boy. That's
a lot of agitated fans in the NL East.
Yeah, there's a lot of passionate fans. Yeah. New York, but it really is true. I've talked to people about this before. I think it's the best division in baseball because you have those cities, in particular in the Northeast. I would say the most tame fan base is probably the Nationals, but they're still very passionate about baseball. New York, it's New York, man. It's like you get that New York feel. Philadelphia, I mean, it might be the greatest atmosphere in baseball in the postseason. In Atlanta, they love their baseball. They live for Braves baseball, and like they pack those places. And the in-game entertainment is incredible. Again, when they shut those lights off and the whole stadium, it's pitch black, starts doing the chop, and
I'm very familiar.
The war chant.
Yes,
you're very familiar. It's really cool. I might say Atlanta at the top, but you'd be hard pressed to separate New York, Philadelphia, and Atlanta.
Would the deal breaker for you maybe be who has the best food in the press box?
Yes. That would be Philadelphia and New York.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
There's an old fella by the name of Frank who serves the ice cream in Philadelphia's press box. He's been doing it for like 40 or 50 years. And I mean this too. The best part about my job outside of broadcasting is seeing now my best friends around the league and seeing those people that have been institutions at these places. Right. Seeing Frank, every time I go there, he knows what ice cream I want before the game. Wow. That's crazy. It's so awesome, cool. Right? Like Rocky Road, by the way. Wow. and it was Turkey Hill, but it's something else now. But I love to see those people and ask them how their off season was. I just did a spring training game. I took the West Coast trip with the Marlins on the radio. Went to Northport. Some of my best friends in baseball now are with the Atlanta Braves radio network. Just unbelievable, grade A human beings. I just love to see those guys because I haven't seen them in 4, 5, 6 months. And you just develop those relationships, and you want to see how their families are doing. And I'm a foodie, so I have a list on my phone of my favorite place to eat in nearly every big league city. Wow. So like, I love to go to those places. That's what I look forward to outside of obviously doing my prep work in the broadcasting.
Some major changes on the TV side outside of your new role. Bally Sports is now FanDuel Sports. How can Marlins fans watch the Fish this season? I saw online there were some rumblings about Amazon Prime. Is it sticking to FanDuel? Can we anticipate any changes in finding the Fish on TV?
So as of now, no. You need the step-up version on Comcast to get FanDuel Sports Network. If you have it, that's not going to look any different. Out of market, you can use the MLB app. And also in market now, you can do the FanDuel Sports app, and you can purchase through there. And there's also a subscription option through Amazon Prime. But when you watch on there, it's not going to look any different than if you were watching. Right. So it's not like it's decked out in Amazon. This is not an Amazon Prime broadcast. There's a partnership now in place between FanDuel and Amazon Prime. That's another avenue to watch. So plenty of places to watch. It's really nice that Major League Baseball, they're starting to come around on no blackouts.
Yeah.
That's huge, man. It's huge. So I think in the coming years, I don't know how many years down the road, but I'm sure it won't be more than maybe 2 or 3. I would imagine every market would no longer be blacked out. That's going to be a game changer for people.
We have no excuse to not watch the Fish.
No, I will be tuned in. If my Mets aren't playing, I'm watching the Marlins. Or my Sacramento A's, which I can help you out there. If the Fish go to Sacramento.
So we don't this year. We made one final stop in Oakland last year.
Okay.
Wow. So we'll be in Sacramento next year. We do visit Steinbrenner Field, though.
Okay, we've been talking about wanting to do a road trip this year, and I thought it'd be pretty interesting to drive west and watch the Marlins and the Rays.
I got a lot of flack for this. I picked Tropicana as one of my top 5 favorite baseball stadiums, and let me explain why.
Okay,
let me explain why. We started going to Tropicana. The Rays were an expansion franchise. I think it was 98. So we went in like 98, 99, 2000, right after the Marlins won. It was an unbelievable stadium. It was like a spaceship. So I thought it was the coolest place on earth. And they were the first venue I remember having Dippin' Dots. And I remember getting Dippin' Dots for the first time in a helmet.
It was life-changing.
Life-changing. And I thought to myself, this place, and the Rays were really bad. This is like the Quentin McCracken, 40-year-old Wade Boggs Rays, where there was very, very little competitive spirit in that stadium.
They made a Disney movie about that Rays.
It was the coolest place on earth. So I was very, very sad to see Tropicana devastated in the hurricane. Yeah. I'm going to be very intrigued to see Steinbrenner because it is a nice spring training venue. It is an outdoor stadium, so there's a lot of good baseball in the state of Florida. We're going to have the opportunity to see the Marlins and the Rays in an outdoor venue, which we haven't seen in a long time. So, I mean, Toad and I are going to...
I will say this: I've never minded Tropicana Field. It's not in my top 5, but it was, but it was never
it's not
a place
in your top 30.
It is. It was never a place where I went to and I dreaded going there. As a broadcaster, it was a good vantage point. It was, climate controlled. I thought they did the absolute best with what they could work with.
Exactly right.
The only gripe I had, they could play those games at 8 a.m, 2 a.m, or 9 o'clock at night, and you just had no sense of time. You had no sense of time.
It's like Vegas casino.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Roll the dice, baby. We can do this all night long. That was the only thing. You really didn't know if it was daylight out. Was it raining? What time it is, but I never mind. I didn't mind going to the Trop. I really didn't.
Fair enough. Kyle, you and I have had some lengthy conversations about the youth movement on the Marlins. Mm-hmm. If you were speaking with the casual Marlins fan who needs a reason to go to the ballpark, what would you tell them to convince them to go out to Lone Depot this season?
Dude, it's a good question because I think about this a lot because at my very core, I'm a fan of baseball. And I know what the fan base down here has been through. Like, I'm not naive to that. I know that they want a winner. I know what everybody wants to see on the field. But I also love a process. But again, I say that, but it feels like this is the 8th, 9th iteration of a process over the last 2 decades. And I'm totally understanding of that. Peter Bendix, I think, has done to date an incredible job trying to lay a foundation, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I'm not going to continue to reiterate this, but that's not what fans want to hear. And I know that. I know the last thing as a fan I want to hear from my favorite team is patience. Done our very best to be patient for a long time. With that being said, I genuinely believe in Peter's vision. I really, really do. I'm as a huge fan, to me, even this spring, it's looked a little different. Some of the young kids that are running around, it looks a little different. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but just the way they move, I'm sure you saw it. Like, there's some guys that you played with in Double-A. It's like, that guy just moves a little bit differently than these other guys. It's like, ooh, that's going to be good. Yeah. Like, you can see it. There's some kids out there running around now where it's like, oh, we haven't seen something that looks like that in a while. And I don't mean to be extremely vague, but the biggest thing I would say, man, is if you're a huge fan, come out and support these kids. They're kids that, like, there are going to be mistakes. The one thing you try to avoid in baseball, it's every single great team goes through it. It's the huge roller coaster. And the best teams, they find a way to, like, even them out. Yeah. You don't let the 6 game losing streaks turn into losing 12 of 13. There are going to be growing pains with this team. But I promise you, the mistakes that they're going to make under Clayton McCullough's leadership and the vision that Peter and Bruce Sherman have in place, the mistakes are going to be at 100 miles an hour. Will they be frustrating at times? Yes. But there are 7 waiver claims on this team. Those are just hungry dudes, and the hungry dog runs faster. So that's what excites me as a fan and as a broadcaster to, you know what? How many games are they going to win? I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that. But I can tell you that some of these guys are really hungry to prove that they belong in the big leagues, and they have a lot of pride. And I'll say this too. And again, I don't know how it's going to end up this year. Every single one of them, they're like, we're going to prove some people wrong. Whatever that means, I don't know. But they're determined. Right. I think the perception is like, you know, when you go to the circus, don't be surprised when you see a clown. They're determined to make sure that that's not the case, and that they're gonna play hard every single night. We're just going to be a bunch of grinders, a bunch of no names that nobody believes in. And who knows, man, what it turns into, whether it's this year, 2 years, or 3 years down the road. If you keep a lot of those young guys with all that service time together and they grow up together, maybe they do something special. You don't know.
Replicate what they've done in Baltimore a little bit down
100%. Yeah. And I mean, I saw something the other day, and I don't know if it's like either 12 of the top 15 or like 16 of the top 20 have all been entered into the system via trades and a draft last year. Mm-hmm. Like, the whole thing is getting flipped in a hurry. Right. And that's quick, man. Yeah. That's a lot of new faces. And, you know, the organization, I'm sure we can chat about this a little bit too. This is another thing fans don't want to hear, but it's very important if you're a fan of baseball. The Marlins at the moment are playing catch up to the industry standard with the technology and the infrastructure within the organization. In addition to the amount of manpower that they have coast to coast and all over the globe to try to find the next best thing. They've invested into this traject system that I had no idea what it was until I started reading about it, that 15 other big league teams have. And once they play catch up, and I think they're getting close, then they're going to be innovative. I really do think you're going to see the Marlins do things at the big league and the minor league level that not all of them are going to work. People will scratch their heads, but when you're in this position, it affords you the opportunity to try to do something that nobody else is doing, to try to win on the margins, to gain an advantage. So a ton, and I mean a ton of money is being spent behind the scenes to put these kids, and they're just kids, in a position to succeed. Right. That's all you can ask for. And I understand at some point, you know, there needs to be a financial investment in free agency and all of that. Totally understand. But there's building blocks to it. And I just personally think they're taking all the necessary and right steps.
That's been the most encouraging part for me and for Todd. I mean, we've talked about it. It's been a painful rebuild, but it's been a rebuild. It seems like Peter has a plan, right? Peter Bendix has at least orchestrated what he believes is the next best step for this organization. And as a minor leaguer, you got to be excited because there's going to be opportunity, right? If you can prove yourself at the AA, the AAA level, there's going to be a spot for you on the Miami Marlins. And I think they've proven that they're going to call people up. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to get their best guys at the big league level. And I think from a fan perspective, there's a patient component, but there's also a component of these guys are going to be fun to watch. I think in some capacity, when you show up to the park, that's going to be the best ticket in town to watch a young, hungry team where, again, there's going to be the rumblings of last season and some of the free agent signings that perhaps didn't go as well as they had anticipated. But
absolutely,
this group of guys, I think, is a group you can get behind. Look, it's a small sample size, but watching Connor Norby last year, he was fun to watch, right? And I think if you're a young kid trying to get back into baseball, trying to enjoy the Miami Marlins, that's a guy I'd want to go out and see. I'd want my kids to play like Connor Norby plays.
Yep, there's no doubt about it. And this is going to be a team that's going to hit and run. They're going to agitate the best teams in baseball because they're going to steal. Clayton McCullough, the new Marlins manager, is largely responsible for catching the Yankees with their pants down in the World Series last year because he was responsible for the infield work and, most importantly, the base running with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, all unsolicited over the parts of the last few seasons that those guys have been there, have mentioned that Clayton McCullough has been one of the best coaches they've ever had. He's a total grinder. He's a day-in, day-out guy. He's not looking for any fanfare. He'll go out there and hit fungos. He's teaching the art of base running. This spring, just from what I've watched on the backfields, you would think that there's some days where the way that they drill some of these guys, that this is the first day of high school baseball. Everybody get in a line and we're going to take ground balls. And we're going to start there. And we're going to teach you how to do this the right way before we move on to the next thing. Working on leads. I think a lot of fans are like, oh, a big leaguer if you don't know how to take a lead off of first. But they are dead set on doing things in a manner that will gain them and put them in an advantageous position, because a lot of times they're going to be the underdog. There's no denying that. There will be much better teams in baseball, and they're going to try to find a way to win on the margins. But it's little things like that. To me, I just see a team that's going to try to go first to third on every base hit, because why not? I think you're going to pitch really well, but let's put a guy in motion and see if we can slap the ball through the right side. I think they're going to be fun to watch because I think the pitching is really good. I don't know necessarily if they have an offense that's going to score 8 runs a night and you're just going to win 8-4. I think they're all going to be close. But I'm looking forward to watching them because they are young and they're hungry and they're looking to prove something, not only to themselves, but Peter and his entire team. Because again, there's 7 guys on the current projected 26-man roster that are waiver claims. Those guys were discarded by somebody else that never wanted them and didn't want to give them a chance. Those guys have something to prove. So I'm excited to watch them. I really am.
Kyle, the most important piece of keeping those games close are opening day starter Sandy Alcantara will be back in a capacity that we are so lucky to have. I think Sandy's been, Todor and I have talked about this at length. I mean, he's a stalwart of the organization. I think, obviously the way he's pitched, the way he's carried himself, the humility. Yeah. We're so excited to have him back. How has Sandy looked this spring? What do you anticipate from Sandy going into the season?
Amazing. I mean, his first pitch in Port St. Lucie and his first start was 99. It scares you a little. It's like, hey, back it down, brother. Give me 96. But he looks amazing. I give him so much credit. I have so much respect for him. When he was coming up, he sat next to some amazing guys. You go back to his Cardinal days, he had mentioned this recently. He looked up to a guy like Adam Wainwright and watched the way he worked. When he got to the Marlins, it's funny to think about, he looked up to Jose Urena. And now he's the elder statesman on this staff. And to watch him travel all year long last year, and to try to provide some context to that, I think we've traveled 47,000 miles last year. It's not the middle of America. You're not in Cincinnati where every flight is 45 minutes within your division, and it's a little bit easier to get out west. Sandy Alcantara had no reason to travel with the team all year long last year, but he felt he needed to as a leader. He went everywhere with the Marlins last year. To me, those are little things that doesn't show up in a stat sheet, but I gained so much respect for him and had so much respect for him. But the way he goes about his work, he's not a chatty guy. He'll exchange a pleasantry with you, but that's pretty much it. Doesn't mean he doesn't like you, but he's just a quiet guy. And I think he's hungry to prove to people that 2023, and in hindsight, obviously something was going wrong there the whole time that led to the Tommy John. But I think he's hungry to prove to people that he could be the 2022 version of himself again.
And hopefully he'll be facing Paul Skeens and the Pirates on opening day.
They haven't announced it yet. Now, maybe by the time this comes out, they will. But we'll see. I would anticipate if it is them too, it's the best opening day matchup. I think so. If you wanted to argue with me that Yamamoto and Skubal, Dodgers, Tigers on opening day, I think you could probably have a pretty healthy discussion about that. But to have the reigning Cy Young Award winner in 2022 go opposite of the National League Rookie of the Year, because that dude is unbelievable. I saw him last summer when we were in Pittsburgh. Oh my God, Paul Skeens is unbelievable. But if I'm the Pirates, with expectations with that rotation and some of the players that they have, I'm not sure why you would hold him back for any other day except opening day. To me, it's like Sandy versus my guy. And if I'm the Pirates, my mentality is we're starting this thing 1-0 this year with my best. Mm-hmm. My rookie going into his sophomore year is going to go out there and out-duel the 2022 Cy Young Award winner. That would just be my mindset with the Pirates. I wouldn't hold him back. I know there was some talk about holding him back for opening day in Pittsburgh against the Yankees. I guess once you go through the rotation one time, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. I guess it doesn't matter if you're the 5 or 4 or 3 guy, but I think it'll be Skeens versus Sandy. Would love if Derek Shelton just announced that.
Come on, Derek.
Yeah. But that is a great matchup, though.
Yeah.
Poof.
One of the young guys that is definitely looking up to Sandy right now is Yuri Perez.
Yeah.
He also had an injury the last year and a half or so, recovering from that. What are your expectations? Do you think we can expect to see him maybe by the All-Star break, or is it just wait and see at the moment?
Yeah, I think midsummer is fair. He's throwing, and it looks really good. I'm not a pitching coach, but if I stand there, it's really effortless. If you think Sandy Alcantara the way, and when he throws a bullpen, it comes out of his hands smooth and it just looks effortless, to me, Yuri looks even better. Well, I just, the way that the kid just moves at that height and size, and when he just throws a ball, I think he, I actually, you know what, I'm not certain what his velo was at this spring, but I heard a couple of rumblings. It started with a 9. I don't know where he's at in that progression, but it's effortless. It's smooth. I say all that because he's obviously pacing towards a return this summer. We'll see where they're at and the situation they're in. That's just not a situation where if you want him to return in the middle of July, you're going to bring him back at the end of June. I think they're going to slow play it, which I think is totally fair with that kid. For his betterment, I'm sure that will tick him off a little bit, because I'm sure in a month from now he's going to feel great. But back it down a little bit to take care of him for his entire career. Probably play the long game a little bit more, but I would say All-Star break is probably fair, somewhere there.
Go ahead. You've been around McCullough, Bendix, Sherman, Gabe Kapler, probably more than anyone these last couple of years. And with McCullough, the last few months, you spoke about McCullough a little bit. Can you pull back the curtains a little bit on what it's like being around Bendix, Sherman, and Kapler? Like, who are they behind the scenes and what we see as fans?
Yeah, I'll start with Bruce, and I have a good relationship with Mr. Sherman. And the one thing that I will tell here to fans, and I've told fans I see in the ballpark before, is, I understand some of your frustrations, but I promise you one thing: he loves this team and he wants to win. He wants to win. And I'll leave it at that. But I promise you, he wants to win. And nobody signs up for this and wants to lose. And I'm sure people would disagree with that. But it's not just a fun little venture to see what happens. Mr. Sherman loves the Marlins. He loves baseball, and he wants to see this team win, and I truly believe that they're going to. I've enjoyed being around Peter the last couple of years. I would say he's a little bit more quiet and reserved. Not that I have him on retainer and I'm asking him every night how things look every single day. He's a very busy guy, but he comes from an amazing place with the Rays, who did things differently, and they found a way to win on the margins. And I think he's the one thing I appreciate is there's almost a little pushback when somebody says the Rays way. He does, to me, seem quick to say, no, we're going to do things the Marlins way. I appreciate my time there, and there's going to be a ton of stuff that he implements from his time over there. Understandably, why wouldn't you here? But they are truly trying to create something that they're referring to as the Marlins way. So I've enjoyed being around Peter. He's very easy to get along with. He's very, very easy to chat with. Very open and honest. Somebody in my position, it's important to create a relationship with those people and have them trust you, because when they do, there is at times information that you're privy to that the public may not be to yet, but it helps you in your work. And then Clayton's been amazing. I can't say enough good things. I love a manager that just kind of like a baseball guy. Yeah. There's a lot of them out there too, but he's kind of like an old school baseball guy.
I mean, that gets me excited for the season. I didn't have to be sold much. I mean, I
already bought my opening day tickets.
You did? Yeah. How many after that?
I already bought my opening day tickets. Hey, this is the guy who's bailing on opening day to go on his honeymoon. What is that?
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
We're going to be in Thailand. So there might be
You're going to be riding an elephant watching FanDuel Sports.
No blackouts in
Monica
Thailand.
won't watch this until after, but yet there's a strong possibility that I will have it on my phone.
You have to get a VPN over there.
I'm not missing Sandy and Skeens. I made that very, very clear. Kyle, we're going to get you out on this. This is obviously, we're minor leaguers. We love the idea of guys getting called up. Who's the one guy for us to keep our eye on in the Marlins system that you think might have a big impact in 2025?
Can I give you more than one? Because I'm excited about a bunch of guys, honestly. I'll start with Augustin Ramirez, the kid that came over in the Yankees deal. The knock is he can't catch. I was chatting with Joe Singley, who's assisting in the catching endeavor. He's on the big league coaching staff. And he was pretty quick to tell me that there's a lot we need to work on, but it's not as like bleak as folks would like to indicate. Right. I think that kid's going to be really good. If you find a good hitting catcher in today's game, that's a bit of a unicorn. You just don't see it much
Blank
anymore.
Check, whatever you want.
100%. With the emphasis that there is now on, catching and defense, there's just not many catchers that prioritize their offense, and it's almost at the organization's, direction. So I think he's going to be really, really good. Jared Cerna, I don't think he's coming this year, but also in the Yankees deal with Jazz, that kid's sharp. Max Acosta, he was in the Jake Berger deal. Yeah. That, again, I'll only go as far as to say this because I'm not a scout, but watching in spring training, it just looks a little different. The way he moves, the way he carries himself, the way he fields and throws, and it just looks like it's going to be in the big leagues. And then on the pitching side, I mean, the organization is predicated on their pitching. Robbie Snelly and Adam Major are super intriguing. The one guy that's, to me, not going to be here this year, if he does, it's going to be unbelievable, but I think next year is a very real possibility mid-year, is Thomas White. That kid.
Talk about different.
Is different. Yeah. Is really different. I think he's actually separated himself in a good way from Noble Meyer. And that, not at all to say that Noble's not going to be awesome himself, but just for two high school kids, for White to take that huge step, it's been like, whoa. Yeah. And he's actually, well, I guess by the time this comes out, it'll already happen, but he's starting the breakout game for the second straight year, the spring training breakout game that Major Leaguers are baseball is doing. And I think 24 of the 25, I think there's 25-man rosters. I think 24 of the 25 guys for the Marlins are all in their top 25. So there's a bunch of guys. Davison De Los Santos is a big name, hit 40 homers in the minors last year, led minor league baseball. A lot of swing and miss there, but there's a lot of power there. I'll give you one more name who really intrigues me, and I think he's going to be a good big leaguer for a long time, and I hate that he continues to get hurt, is Victor Mesa Jr. There was some scuttlebutt years ago when Victor was signed that a lot of people thought that the brother was going to be better and he was younger, which turned out to be that way. Victor is no longer in baseball. But Victor Mesa Jr., a lot of people think he could be a dynamite center fielder. If he can hit a little bit, he's going to play in the big leagues for a long time.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Hey, I already told you, game 1 of 162, I'm locked in. So there's 161 others that I'll be watching on TV.
Yeah, on MLB.TV, and then the next night you have the A's in one box, the Mets, the Marlins.
No, I'm actually, I think the Prime partnership is going to be the most innovative and biggest thing for baseball since maybe the pitch clock. The accessibility to watching games on a platform that a lot of people already have. I think it speaks volumes to what MLB is trying to do. We spoke about on another episode, I don't even think it's an episode. We did a social media post about how we were frustrated with how ESPN's treating baseball now, and Manfred just ripped off the Band-Aid, said, then forget it. We'll find another partner.
Yeah.
I think these are great solutions that MLB and their TV partners are coming up with to just watch more baseball without necessarily having to go to Lone Depot. But we encourage everyone to go to Lone Depot. Javi and I are regulars there. All jokes aside, I think both of us combined maybe go to 50 games a year, which
it's awesome.
Way above average. The Mafia.
I love going to baseball games. It's an easy sell for me, right? I think whether you watch on TV or in person, baseball's having, and we've been at the forefront of pushing this. it's having its moment. I think it's making a comeback. We have these exciting young players. There's been just a rush of organizations taking the leap. And again, for as much as we talk about the big market organizations that seem to be in October every year, everyone's got a chance. And I think the parity at the baseball level right now, at the major league level, is as good as it's ever been.
You know, my thing too with all that, and I think you guys are onto something here too. Obviously, people are going to start to get a little uneasy and restless because after 2026, many think there's going to be another work stoppage.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure about that. I personally think an agreement's going to get done. But along with that agreement, I do think the game is trending in the right direction. To watch Major League Baseball and ESPN say, you know what, no, because we don't feel like you're giving us enough. We're going to go somewhere where we're going to be showcased even better. I mean, look, the ABS system is coming. That is, from seeing that this spring, there's fan engagement involved in that. Now, is that the reason you're buying a ticket to go out to watch it? No, but it's cool. You feel like you're a part of it, and it doesn't take long, and like you get excited about something. I am a firm believer. The pitch clock, the game is trending in the right direction. I laugh when people say the sport is dying. There's more money in the sport now than there's ever been. TV contracts are ridiculous. They're still going to be on the biggest stage. The game is at a place where it's never been before with the velocity and the Otanis and the Sotos and all these guys. It's only going to continue to trend in the right direction. In the league, the owners and the Players Association, I think will come to an agreement, and they will all be comfortable with like, all right, we hashed out another deal, and I think there's going to be a lot in that upcoming deal that's going to continue to, make the game go in the right direction.
Manfred and baseball and Manfred and Major League Baseball have been the most willing American professional sport to innovate and try things differently compared to the NBA, NHL, NFL.
Yeah.
They understood that fans were complaining, the pace of play, so on and so forth, and they've taken calculated risks. And whether or not some of these end up working out, I can respect their eagerness to try and change and innovate the oldest professional sport in America that's called boring. All these things that at the end of the day are probably false truths where, baseball can be boring sometimes, but they're changing.
You're watching it wrong. You're not watching it on FanDuel Sports Network. That's the problem.
And it's a very regionalized sport. And the NFL is a national sport. You have your favorite team, but 32 teams are on display every weekend. Baseball is a very regionalized sport. People in Cleveland are not watching the Marlins and vice versa. The people that are invested in the Dodgers are not really interested in what the Rangers are doing. The one really cool thing when you come back to the TV stuff going on, I think there's a half dozen teams this year through the MLB app that are offering a subscription just to your team. Right. You don't get access to watching every team, but I think you're going to find that that's going to be a part basically of all 30 teams, and you can pay $60 a year as opposed to $140 just to watch your team. That's like 50 cents a game, less 40 cents a game over the course of a year. So I think they're going to continue to do the right things, to make fans happy, and I'm pumped about it, but I'm a big fan just like you guys are, man.
Kyle, thank you so much for hopping on with us. Marlins fans, you can catch Kyle and the Miami Marlins on FanDuel Sports. Is that the official name?
FanDuel Sports Network Florida.
FanDuel Sports Network Florida on Amazon Prime, like we mentioned. Again, Kyle, congratulations. And
thank you, guys.
I know Javi and I are huge fans of
Don't
yours.
miss a game.
No,
whether you're on the back of an elephant,
Thailand,
working that VPN, you better watch all 162 games or whatever. But I'm pumped for you guys too. I've followed you guys now for a little bit. I've loved the interview with Josh Hader. That was incredible. So keep up the good work, and whenever you guys need anything, let me know.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you, Kyle.